Yeah. Hi, friends. Welcome back to the podcast. My name is Dean. We've got a good one for you today. I'm going to talk to someone that not a lot of people want to talk to, but he's making some waves out in Alberta, and he's making some national waves. And there's a lot of heat around the whole 51st state thing. So hang on. I'll explain it in just a second. Brought to you, as always, by our friends at fieldtriphealth.ca, field trip clinics, field trip health clinics across Canada. Going to fieldtriphealth.ca brings you in touch with psychedelic assisted therapy, specifically ketamine assisted therapy, if you're interested in psychotherapy. And if you're interested in getting rid of drug resistant treatment, yeah, depression, anxiety, all the things that come with you not being a happy person, I would highly encourage you to go to fieldtriphealth.ca. They're my partner in my mental health. They need to be yours as well. So many athletes, so many business people, so many successful people transitioning use ketamine assisted therapy and psychedelic assisted therapy. Why? Because it works. It works almost all the time. 86% response rate for alcoholics, 80% response rate for people that have drug resistant depression. And the reason why it works, it works because it puts you in a state where you can actually do the work of getting through trauma. Trauma is a big deal for a lot of different people. In fact, everybody follows you around for the rest of your life. It can mold your mind into this thing that's super paranoid all the time. That's why we have anxiety, depression, PTSD, all the things that come with not being well. And ketamine assisted therapy is the only thing, pardon me, excuse me, look at that I know works. And it works rapidly, and it works for a long period of time with no drug side effects from SSRIs. I would encourage everybody in Canada to go look. They've got at-home treatment. They've got a bunch of different facilities across Canada. If you're interested in getting better faster and staying better longer, go to fieldtriphealth.ca. Well, the 51st state stuff is a deal. I'm watching people around the province and around the country talk about how no one should talk about it. CBC did this thing with Ian Hadamansing the other day. What does the 51st state mean to you? I mean, I think it's bullshit. But a lot of people out there, like maybe 10% of the country, don't. And I want to talk to people that think it isn't a bullshit idea. I want to talk to people that are all in on the 51st state, and I want to understand their mind frame. I want to understand the mindset. And a news report came out the other day where people in Alberta were very upset because billboards were popping up with "Join Canada, join the United States, let's go. Danielle, let's join the United States." Danielle Smith is the Premier of Alberta. She hobnobbed with Donald Trump down in Mar-a-Lago. Everybody knows what I think of that. And it was brought to you by the AmericaFund.ca. And for anybody that finds that an affront, good. For anybody that finds that to be friendly to their sensibility, good, because today's guest is the guy that bought that advertising, came up with the plan, and is very much associated. In fact, I think he's the president of the AmericaFund.ca, if I'm not mistaken. Please welcome to the program. He's been called the Dark Prince of Wexit, Peter Downing, ladies and gentlemen. Peter, nice to see you. I love the racquetball glasses you got going on there, too, by the way.
Thank you. Prescription safety glasses.
But you're in your house. Are you in your house? Why are you wearing prescription safety glasses? Are you doing some lathing?
I'm working.
Okay.
I've been up since 7 o'clock yesterday. I work in oil and gas and upstream drilling operations. So you got the coffee, and I got something a little bit stronger right now to keep me awake.
A little Red Bull?
I walked in the door, and the timing worked out to get in touch with you. So here we are.
Dude, really appreciate it. You're an Alberta guy. You work in the oil field, as you just kind of stated, but you're an Ontario dude, as I understand. Is that correct?
Yeah, I grew up listening to you, the Dean Blundell Show, 102.1, The Edge with Fearless Fred.
Yeah. Well, he was in the afternoon. I didn't really work with him, but
yeah, a lot of misspent youth, and I thank you for your service.
Yeah, as I do you. You're a military veteran. You're a law enforcement veteran. And an Ontario guy. And what brought you out to Alberta? Like when did that transition happen?
I joined the RCMP, and that's where they ship me off to. So you do your 6 months at the training academy, or the police academy, and it kind of is a little bit like those shows from the 80s. So that was 6 months in Regina, and then I got posted out to Alberta, and I've been here ever since.
Did you always want to get into law enforcement? Was that the thing for you?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it was kind of a big thing between that, just not being good enough at hockey, I guess, and like everybody else. And then, yeah. I worked I was an industry guy working in the club district as well in Toronto back in the day there in the early 2000s. So,
Were
and
you a
that is,
DJ? Were you one of those?
no, I was a door guy, bouncer,
Oh,
all that
okay.
kind of stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Again, all those guys are just not, we didn't put too many pucks in the nets, and, we could drop the gloves, and then we became bouncers and then cops. And it's kind of an Ontario thing. And then we bring our fist fighting culture out west.
Oh, okay. That's what you did. You brought your fist fighting culture. So you were one of those guys that, you grew, was it Newmarket? Is that your hometown? Is that where you're from?
Yeah, I'm from Newmarket.
Okay. Newmarket, you grow up, go through high school. You're part of that crew, right? You like to, ask questions after you grab a guy, right? That's
Yeah.
how I grew up, right?
Hey, you know what? Just play a lot of sports, and then it keeps you out of having to go to class.
Yeah, that's the deal. Oh, that's incredible. So you grew up out west, out east. You go to Alberta for your first post with the RCMP. Where in Alberta were you, by the way?
Yeah, in the Edmonton area. I did all my service in the Edmonton area, about 10 years.
Yeah.
Being a cop's really fun for the first few years, and then it's kind of not.
Mm-hmm.
I miss police work. I definitely don't miss the organization, and it was funny. I got out in 2015, and young family and all that kind of stuff, and then that's sort of when I fell into this political space while I was doing other things. I went back to school to get my my business degree, and I did a bunch of odd jobs in business and some self-employed ventures and a few things. But that's kind of where I got I fell into politics in 2015. I just volunteered to put up door signs and lawn signs, that kind of stuff during a provincial election. And I guess the candidate can speak English very well and didn't want to go to the English debates, so he didn't show up for one of the debates. So I had to be there, and they called me the campaign manager. And anyway, so that's where I kind of got my first taste of blood that way.
Okay.
And it sort of went from there. And for me, my politics were very Doge North back in 2015 about government waste and effectiveness in public service, pro-life stuff, pro-family stuff, parents' choice.
Mm-hmm.
And then I kind of got more into the, I actually ran as a candidate for Christian Heritage Party. I had, and then kind of got into the mainstream conservative parties, provincial and federal, and realized that really wasn't my cup of tea. And then I stumbled on Alberta separatism when everybody was out of work because of some of the Trudeau policies that affected oil and gas operations out here. And it was a real thing. It was a real thing. And people suffered. So that's kind of, I had always been saying, and I was kind of always on the periphery, if you don't like something, make a billboard about it.
Sure.
And
that's
what I did. I sold a van for scrap, a broke down van for scrap metal, $250. Got my first billboard. Said, should Alberta ditch Canada? And just wanted to see how it would go. And it went. And that was kind of the start of the Wexit movement in 2019. We took that.
Was that the yellow vest thing too? Were you part of that?
No.
No, it's totally different. Those guys are crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I didn't have, I don't know. I didn't have anything to do with that.
Okay. You're just a pure Alberta separatist, someone that was like, okay, I touched the sun a little bit with this billboard.
I'm just a guy who can't put too many pucks in the net. And it's sort of like you took a run at the goalie with Alberta Oil and Gas. So I had to drop the gloves and do something about it. That's kind of
right.
It's a little bit more like that. I don't really drink my own Kool-Aid that much. I'm a pretty regular guy, and I wouldn't have been so, and I wouldn't be doing this, but I'll explain. So we recognize that, yeah, the Wexit movement upset the Conservative Party, who I don't, I don't like that political party.
Oh, you don't like conservatives? You don't like the Conservative Party of Canada? Not a fan?
I don't like fakeness.
Right. Me neither. I fucking hate it.
I don't like political people in general. I mean, they're probably decent people on their own, but when they're
probably not.
Yeah, their decisions don't affect them. So 2020 recognized that it didn't really affect the Liberals too much because they don't need votes in Alberta and Saskatchewan. So then we put up the billboard, should Alberta join the USA, with a big old picture of President Trump there leading up to the 2020 election. And we put one right by Parliament Hill. So that got a little bit of a reaction. And then the big controversy around the 2020 presidential election, and then COVID slowed everything down. And then once COVID went away and President Trump got reelected and then announced about the 51st state, folks started like really reaching out to me and saying, "Hey, can we put something together?" And I'm working in oil and gas, and I don't
when
really
you say folks, like saying, "Can we do something together?" Who are those folks? Like you got to have like
people in the Alberta political space who were involved in the Wexit movement before and the Alberta USA stuff.
Sure.
So they reached out back in November, December when President Trump made his comments, and me, I didn't really care that much. If it doesn't affect me and us and my family, it was more like, you know what, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. It's going to play itself out. Let the political theater do its thing. But it was when the federal government, and you've got conservatives and liberals, so this is kind of like a bipartisan, nonpartisan thing, started talking about energy export tariffs and export bans on Alberta oil and gas. That was kind of like, game on.
Yeah. You're going to touch my stuff now, right?
Yeah. 100%. You're touching my stuff. And I'm not the kind of person who outsources the well-being of my family, just like the reasons why I became a cop. I don't outsource my personal well-being to other people, like to politicians, and so some of the American civics. I've always appreciated and admired the American civics of of the people coming together and people creating a constitution, not having it passed down by some royal family who got the lineage because some guy abdicated the crown for whatever, right? Purple monkey dishwasher. So that's always kind of been my thing. I've always done that and tried to take responsibility for myself in the civic space. And so that was when I said, okay, I'll help you guys put something together. And it took about a month or so, and we're kind of seeing, well, are the tariffs happening on February 2nd? What are the politicians saying?
And remind me again, you said I'll help you guys put something together. Who are you guys?
So that's the folks, the directors of the America Fund.
AmericaFund.ca, is that the URL?
Yeah. And one of the guys, he was on. I don't know if you caught wind of this, because he was on DeVell Morrison on AM 640 this morning. But he also
I tend not to listen to derelict AM radio stations that no one listens to in Toronto. So no, I may have missed it. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Anyways, so that's Paul McGregor, and he takes care of some of the constitutional development stuff.
So all Canadians, it's all Canadians that are involved in AmericaFund.ca. No Americans.
No Americans, Canadians, Albertans.
Any Americans? Sorry if I apologize for asking. Any American funding for AmericaFund.ca?
No,
zero.
It's funny. Like I said, Doge North. I mean, when I worked on some of those projects in government for the Alberta government, and the hundreds of thousands of dollars I help these people save and increase their output in a number of things. I'm not going to get into the specific dollar figure, but you'd be really surprised how little money it takes to be able to do something like this.
Oh no, I know how little it takes to do a digital billboard. I get it. But when you're talking about when you worked for the government, you worked for the provincial government, like the UCP government, for a while?
No. I was with the RCMP. RCMP's provincial contract in Alberta. I did some cross projects with Alberta Justice, with Alberta Transportation for some of the new impaired driving legislation when it came out. So when I say government, I don't mean political.
Okay,
government.
yeah. Pardon me.
Public service.
Sure.
Public service.
Yeah.
Public service is kind of my, I work in oil and gas, but public service is still kind of that. You take responsibility for your homes and your neighborhoods. That's kind of where I'm coming from.
Sure. Okay. Got it. Okay. So the AmericaFund.ca read an article today, which is amazing that I get to talk to you today. I really appreciate you hustling this up in short order. Is responsible and has been for some time in promoting the idea that Canada would be better off as a 51st state. Is that what I'm to understand? Or Canada would be better off, or Alberta would be better off in joining the United States? What's your take?
I take it out of the abstract, out of the Canada. I talk about people. And I think constitutionally protect. Let's put the narrative out there about the rise of populism in Europe and in the States and in Canada.
Yeah.
Free speech works both ways. Constitutionally protected free speech works both ways. So in rising populism and things that might make some people a little bit uncomfortable, they get to benefit from free speech too. Our cities are turning into a wasteland of drug-addled zombie apocalypse. And one of the ones that really got my attention was a senior 2 years ago in Edmonton, just walking, got cut box cutter right across the face.
Did you see it?
Yeah. I mean, and that's just one example, right? I talk about I'm married with a bunch of kids. A father of 7. This was either last year. Stabbed in the heart and killed by a random drug addict, like unknown person, out like Friday
Right
the 13th. This dude from Africa, right in the heart, got through the ribs, right in the heart.
By a drug addict, by like a
by
fentanyl guy, meth head. Do you know what kind of?
Yeah, and then
do you know the name of the gentleman that was stabbed?
It's in the news. I'll send you the links afterwards. It's these are news reports.
Okay.
And then
you know where the news reports are from? Sorry. I just do you know where the news reports are from?
Yeah, all over Edmonton Journal. Journal, I think, is probably the easiest one to find. And then last month, the month before, I'll just finish with this one.
Please, yeah.
Security guard. He 3rd day on the job. He's in an apartment building. He stumbles across I don't know if it's a drug dealer or something. Anyways, the guy points a shotgun at him, pushes him out the door, shoots him in the back, shoots him down the stairs. And that video was circulating. So I think, and I was a cop, and I come from Ontario, so I kind of see the Ontario side when it comes to guns, but I also see the Alberta side with the culture here. Is I believe that everybody's life is just as valuable as everybody else's, and I don't think that a politician is any more valuable than you. You should have the right to protect yourself, and so I'm a big fan of the Second Amendment. It shouldn't just be for armored guards for some rich man's money. Your life's important too. 60% tax cuts. Obviously, just look at your paycheck. Just circle the red part.
Sir, did you say 60% tax cut?
Yeah, that's what President Trump has said. 60%.
60% from the current 45%, which is max tax bracket here. Is that?
Yeah, I think he's talking in broad strokes. But the idea is that the average Canadian would save 60% in their overall taxation.
Do you know how that would happen or no?
Well, I guess there's a couple. I mean, now I'm just speculating, but there's a couple of ways. There's some states don't have any income tax. Some states don't have any sales tax. That would just be at the top of my mind. He hasn't put out there like a firm break it down policy proposal.
Sure.
And part of that would be folks creating their own state constitution, which would govern a number of those things.
So question for you, just as I think critically, if you're going to be putting up a billboard about Canada becoming part of the United States, and part of your reasoning is that you would get a 60% tax cut, would you not want to ferret that out ahead of time and know how that works, to believe in it, to be able to say, hey, this is the horse I'm going to run the race with?
If I was a politician running for public office, I was, I'm just a promotions guy. You're
a hype guy.
Yeah, I'm kind of a hype guy a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, you're a hype guy.
Yeah, I guess so. A little bit of that kind of. I'm a bit of a shock jock myself.
Oh, are you?
Yes, I dabble a little bit in that. But yeah, so, and then the last one of the big things in Alberta for sure, in Saskatchewan, is the ongoing equalization payment stuff. So the idea of not paying another dime in equalization to prop up Quebec and things like that, when they say, hey, we're not having your pipelines across our our country, our land. I mean, that's a big thing. It's a big thing for folks here.
Okay, so you've really kind of given me like a Coles Notes tour of why you believe, and the Coles Notes tour is sort of non-committal in my opinion, but it's also interesting, and I really value what you've just said, which is like, hey, there's a bunch of stuff that pisses me off, and I think Canada should be.
Not me. This is a reflection of what pisses a lot of people in Alberta off. And
Oh,
yes,
okay.
it does piss me off too, but I wouldn't just put my own thing up there. It's substantial enough that it merited putting out.
And the substantiality, it lies behind the 60% reduction in taxes because we get taxed too much. Is that correct?
That's
Okay. And the other stuff is, you know, and I'm trying to figure this out as I go. The other stuff that you've cited as a reason for buying billboards and asking Danielle Smith, and I just want to bring this up again because it's a fucking sweet billboard, by the way. It's actually a really cool billboard. It's a digital billboard outside of Bowden, Alberta. Tell Danielle, let's join the USA, AmericaFund.ca. The reason behind that is because of the tax cuts and...
Well, the tell Danielle part, I mean, that's the other side of obviously tell Danielle's, it gets in your mind and it's memorable.
Yeah.
But I think she has been trying to, my observation, this is my, other people share it. This is my observation.
Sure.
She's been speaking out of both sides of her face when it comes to how we're going to, deal with tariffs and oil and gas exports and jobs and investments and all that kind of stuff. And part of this was to fix her into the position. To fix her is like, are you, because this is going to, if we don't do something more than what, let's fight Trump and let's do our counter tariffs, or let's just sit here and let Trump do his tariffs and be diplomatic, which isn't going to change the situation.
Okay, so I get that. Do you want Canada to join the United States preemptively to save the salary of people in the oil patch?
If we were, I guess if it comes to it, and if there were, and my sound bite was, well, if Ottawa is saying that oil and gas tariffs and export tariffs and embargoes aren't off the table, then becoming the 51st state is not off the table as well. Right. And it's that option out there because I'm not willing to lose my job over oil and gas tariffs and embargoes. I'm a real person.
Yeah,
100%. I'm a real person with a real family. And by that same token, too, for the auto worker in Ontario, I had neighbors whose dads worked in steel and aluminum in Hamilton and who worked in Alliston Honda. I don't know if that's still there. Oshawa, obviously, big auto production.
Alliston Honda, yeah, it's still there. It's big.
Yeah,
it's
okay, yeah. So, I wonder if I was in those dudes' boots. I wonder how much comfort it is to those guys here. Oh, we're going to have a tariff war with Trump, and Ford's gone out there and said, "Yeah, well, that's going to lose 500,000 jobs." And here's a guy, and I got to make fun of him on this one. He's like, "We will."
Oh, we agree. He's a doucher, massive doucher.
We will never be the 51st state, and you can be the 11th province, and Canada's not for sale. So he goes to Mar-a-Lago. He comes back, and what does he say? I think Ontario needs the death penalty, and we got to send some people send them right to Sparky. I'm like, yeah, bud, way to show you won that negotiation.
Yeah. So he actually didn't go to Mar-a-Lago. He went to DC.
Oh, Washington, right?
Yeah,
thing,
yeah.
Right? Let's light up Sparky. Like, tell
yeah, no, douche move for sure. Yeah. He came back and he was like, yeah, we need to give everybody electric chair. He is, and you and I will agree, he is the worst person in Canadian politics outside of Pierre Poilievre.
Well,
we agree on that, right?
So I read your Crier article on him and his wife and his father-in-law, and I'm like, you know what? Has anybody done a FOIP request, like an American Prison Freedom of Information Act request?
I have, yeah.
Oh, well, we've got one going too. And I was going to say, hey, maybe I'd share it with you.
As we should. But anyway, I want to get back to...
But it's funny, but this comes back to President Trump's beef. And let's take President Trump out of the equation. TD Bank just got fined $3 billion by the Americans for being involved in money laundering, drug laundering and that drug trafficking and that whole kind of space.
Dude, I'm friends with two of the guys that got fucked over that whole thing because they laundered money. But anyway, continue.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. So you got that. And let's just say broadly, Canada, the Liberals are governing and the they're responsible for bank regulation. So let's just say that's on the Liberals. Let's just hypothetically say.
Well, that was actually
if you've
hang
done,
on. That was actually in the United States, which has completely different banking regulations. TD Bank in the United States is a different country than TD Bank in Canada, so different businesses to that point.
Sure.
And I think that's really important nuance, is that happened in the United States. It didn't happen in Canada.
Where I'm going with this, though, is that if you've done that FOIP request and you've got, I mean, I'd love to see it, because we're doing our own. But if you've got somebody who's going to be the prime minister, the next prime minister of Canada, Milhouse Van Houten, and his wife, like, you couldn't be a cop if your wife's dad was in jail, like federal drug charges for money.
Oh, you're talking about Anita Polyev.
Yeah.
Fart.
So you've done the FOIP request on the dad.
Yes. Yeah. Oh. Well, it's the dad and the uncle, more importantly. So, and I'll give you a Coles Notes tour through that. So, effectively, Pierre Polyev had this crazy, weird shotgun wedding to this woman named Anita Polyev, and they've got a couple of kids.
He goes by Jeff. That's completely
well.
Normal.
His given name is Jeff, and nobody knows why.
Completely normal people who just go by Jeff.
Yeah, dude. Normal guy. We hate the same people. No. But what I'm getting from you is that you're distinctly Canadian, which is why I have a hard time with the fact that you want Canada to become the 51st state, or you want Alberta, more importantly, to become the 51st state. Because what I hear you doing, Mr. Downing, I hear you talking about your pride in this country, resentment around certain parts of the way you've been treated and people are treated in this country, which is lovely. I think it's great. But I also hear the misguided, oh, hey, heads up for the ring light just crashed. I also hear this interesting sort of nuance, which is like, I don't fucking trust anybody. Like, I don't trust anybody, and I want to take it all, and I want to give all my support to a foreign interest, and I want to challenge you on that, because I think you're a very interesting young man. I really do.
Okay. So in the hour that I got back and I was waiting, so you talking again, this is a reflection of how
what hour that you got back that you were waiting?
Well, I was waiting for you when I got back, and I was waiting to get your video link and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
I had to put some thought into the discussion.
Sure.
And this is, again, everything that I post, everything that's out there, everything that's an accurate reflection of Alberta public thought and where I think things are going to go. Now, take this geopolitical situation. You say, okay, let's say we're going to save Canada, right? I have been around enough dysfunction in my life, whether it's, through observing personal interactions, to being a cop and seeing a lot of dysfunction and people and courts and judges saying, oh, well, this is how we're going to fix it. And it doesn't, and it gets worse, and it absolutely doesn't fix the situation. So we find ourselves in this situation where you've got this power struggle between Russia, China, and America for the Arctic. Yeah. And you've got President Trump saying this is his position, and he's got the leverage to act upon this position, saying, Canada can't defend the Arctic. Canada's compromised Chinese police stations in Markham, things like that. I mean, there were some in America too.
Dude, I live in Markham. I do.
I played hockey there.
I know you did. You're from Newmarket. Those Chinese prisons literally exist in this country. Yeah. And do you know who sanctioned those Chinese prisons in Canada? Do you know who signed all the papers to get it working? You do, don't you? Yeah.
No, I don't actually. I haven't done. You tell me.
Yeah, Stephen Harper.
Yeah. That guy.
Part of the FIPA deal.
That guy in 2012 who sold FIPA to China. That guy.
You got it.
That guy who says that. Well, if I was in charge, we would. Canada should accept any level of damage, and I would impoverish people to save Canadian identity. Like jump off a bridge, bud.
Oh, so that's interesting, and I want to challenge you on that, and I want to kind of go down that road. So you have a very pro-Canadian stance, and I can see it, I can smell it in you. I can. And part of the resentment that you have is like, fuck you, if you're not going to take care of me and my family, we're going to feather the nest. We're going to shit all over the idea that
we're also going to double. We would also double our daily output of oil from 4.6 million barrels a day to about 10. So
which would give you job security, right?
A lot of us would make a lot more money.
Well, exactly. So listen, here's the thing. You come at your patriotism through your paycheck. Most people do. It's not a slight. It's not a slight. Most people look at their world paradigm or their world shift through.
Let's be sure. We'll be Hobbesian. We'll be Thomas Hobbes for the sake of it. Life's nasty, brutal, and short, and let's be self-interested. Okay, I'm with you on it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're the leader of the Wexit movement. You started that in 2019. You're like, fuck this, let's get out of here. We can do our own thing. We've got lots of oil. We've got lots of this. But your job is intrinsically tied to the oil patch, right? After a career in law enforcement guy, I believe you spent some time in the military, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah,
a couple of years in the military. And you found a place in the oil patch. You make pretty good dough, I would imagine. You support a family of how many kids you have?
Well, now that we're talking, I don't want people looking for all my kids right now. So I got kids. I got a bunch of kids.
Lots of kids. Yeah, you have
hey,
several children.
I'm 1950s. I'm 1950s. I'm able to take care of a family on one salary. It's great.
Good for you. Good for you. You have this Christian. You're part of the Christian Heritage Party, right?
Well, I was. I mean, I'm a genuine apostolic believer in Jesus. That's for sure.
Okay. Well, it doesn't matter. You've got this core belief system that lends itself to husband's the head of the home. He has to go out and make it happen. You make it happen. So your core belief.
It sucks, by the way. The work really does suck, but it pays well.
I know it does, dude. Hey, listen, I take nothing away from guys like you that work your dicks off on the oil rigs. I take nothing away from people like I'm from Alberta. I grew up in Three Hills, went to high school there, went to University of Calgary. I have planted trees. I've taken really shitty summer jobs testing wells. Like I've done all of those things. And I know that those are the hardest working people who will also help you at the end of an 18-hour day, change a tire on your car at the side of the road. Like I've got no issues talking about the generosity, the altruism about the people of Alberta. I've got none, zero. But what I'm trying to get to the bottom of here is how your core belief system as a Canadian who grew up in Canada, experiencing the freedoms of this beautiful fucking country that we live in. And I truly believe that. And I know we've got our warts. I know we've got our problems. But my self-interests have been harmed by certain aspects of governance as well. However, I understand the needs of the greater good. So what I'm trying to understand here is how someone like you could be so disaffected by his life experience that he goes from Ontario to Alberta, and then becomes a guy that puts up a billboard that says, basically, fuck Canada. We need to leave and go and join the United States.
Maybe I've got vaccine-induced autism or something like that, and I've got like no emotions about it. I think here's a better way to approach this. Let's put a thought experiment together of how we could actually forget the politicians, forget the Liberals, forget the federal Conservatives, forget Danielle Smith for a second. Let's put the thought together of how to navigate this space that we're in right now. President Trump and the Americans will not tolerate Chinese and Russian anchor in the Arctic. And the Brian Lilly interview with Steve Bannon, I think, was pretty good on that point. Okay, so
really, you think that President Trump doesn't want anything to do with Russia being involved in American business, dude? He's currently licking Vladimir Putin. Same thing. He's currently licking Vladimir Putin's balls.
I don't get, I don't take, I don't get that. I don't get.
You don't get it by him admonishing Ukraine and calling Zelensky a dictator. You don't get that.
I see President Trump taking $500 billion in minerals out of Ukraine. I see the interest there.
You see, yeah. I know you do, because you're smart. You're a smart guy. You understand this. You don't see a country that's been invaded by Russians and women, children raped, 25,000 children being literally sucked out of Ukraine and taken to Russia. You don't see
I work with a lot of dudes tell me their stories, how they got out and that I work with for sure.
And you don't.
I guess where I'm going is,
No,
for
hang
me,
on. Just give me a second. Let me finish.
go for it.
Because I want you to finish too.
Sure.
You don't see the lack of humanity in how the United States has taken this heel turn and decided to enrich themselves on the back of genocide and rape and torture. Like, do you not see
I
that?
thought the whole war was bullshit from both sides anyways. When everybody
You think it's bullshit from the side of Ukrainians who were invaded,
okay.
who are trying to protect their families?
I don't live there.
I know you don't live there, and this is
I
the
don't.
problem.
To
A lot
me,
of us come at
I can only be.
these global skirmishes. A lot of us come at these ideological issues
Yeah,
from a perspective of self-interest, and that's what I'm trying to
yeah.
understand.
For
Is that
me, I'll
how do
be
you not see
honest. Like,
that?
yeah, I care about starving kids in Africa. When I see the back in the '80s, donate and give, starving kids in Africa, right? The Ukraine thing is kind of like that to me. The Israel-Palestine thing is kind of like that to me. That's over there. I don't wish death or misery upon anybody, but I
Yeah,
kind of focus on what I can do. And so if we're talking in this space about Canada right now, okay.
yeah.
So how do we defend our Arctic? How do we get a navy capable of doing that? Is one question. Is the next question is, how do we get Canadians, whether it's east-west divides, whether it's liberal or conservative divides, that kind of stuff? And I mean, you should see like the glorious book that I can make of all the hate mail I've received is just gives me such great fuzzy feelings about my fellow man and my fellow Canadian right now. But let's just put that aside and say, how do we get people of different political positions, let's just call it positions, to not hate each other or not break down screaming at each other? How do we deal with the political corruption and incompetence that's infiltrated our body politic, whether it's a conservative, liberal, federal, provincial, all that kind of stuff? How do we economically develop? How do we unlock those resources that we have in the Arctic in different places? How do we get free trade across our country? And it's when regular people, not the politicians who've got the vested interest in this, in maintaining their position as gatekeepers, when you're able to do those things and put that together in a package where a delegation or this government that is prorogued right now, that may not have ongoing elections, where we, the people, and maybe you don't want to use that term, or the people of Canada, come together and say, you know what, we're pretty screwed if we let things go the way it is right now. And all the political solutions out there, just, again, it's dysfunctional and it's fake and it's make believe. Again, I'm thinking about the guys who are working in the car plants in Alston and in Oshawa. So when they come together and say, hey, how can we work with people in the West? How can we do this stuff? And how can we replace these people that we have right now and put in people who can say, hey, President Trump, let's, maybe we need some American capital development to finance Canadian purchase of all your defense stuff so that we can secure our own Arctic. And maybe for a while we need a thing where we've got your Navy here for a bit, but we're going to pay you for your people to your Ohio class submarines to be in our whatever, right? And you see where I'm going is, how do you create a solution for this stuff? Because I'm saying right now, the way it's going, and this is my position, the position of many Albertans, is we're going to be the 51st state if it keeps going the way it's going. So something different has to change that isn't one of these ridiculous solutions or non-solutions that our politicians are putting forward.
Okay, so let me challenge you on that. Appreciate it. 80% of Canadians are opposed to the idea of becoming the 51st state. 80%. How do you plan on convincing 80% of the country with the AmericaFund.ca that they're mistaken about their national identity?
Oh, I'm not convincing them.
Okay, so the billboard was for what?
When everybody's poor, because the Canadian dollar is going down the tubes, you got Bank of Canada saying there's going to be no bounce back from this. When the Canadian dollar continues to plummet and the Canadian housing market crashes and inflation from money printing for social programs, taxation, all that kind of stuff, all the disorder that comes from the way that this tariff war, I think, will end if it tries to be fought the way that they're talking about fighting. Now, in the back of my mind, I think the politicians are cutting a deal with President Trump right now, and they're just trying to profit off it while they're keeping us distracted.
Oh, yeah, provincially for sure. Like your premier. Your premier has been sucking that man's dick for the past, I don't know, month, like legitimately. Same with my premier in Ontario. He goes down to Mar-a-Lago. He goes, or not Mar-a-Lago, he's down to DC, and he's like, I'm all about the American money. Like, let's just keep the American money coming in, to your point.
I think that was a national embarrassment ritual for the premiers. They got to go and talk with lower level staffers. They're like, oh, we succeeded. And the lower level staffers say, no, we never said anything about you not becoming the 51st state. And you never got anywhere near President Trump.
No.
Or any member of his cabinet.
No. Okay, so next question. Given 90% of Canadians have rejected the notion of U.S. annexation, do you think the remaining 10%, which you apparently seem to be in, need to dictate the future of Canada? Like, do you really think this is going to work?
The number, so two things. One is I think people are going to change their mind once they're poor and destitute, if it continues this way. But the number that I'm really
you want Canadians to become poor and destitute?
No, I absolutely don't. I absolutely don't.
So why do you promote it?
Because I think that's what's going to happen. And I think that
so you're skating to where the puck, you think the puck is going to, in the words
I'm
of Wayne
shining the light where I think the puck is going. Yeah.
Okay.
But
and you're advocating for it. So here's the other question I would have is that you're Canadian, right?
I would say that I'm warning. I'm not advocating. I'm warning. I'm telling you.
Well, yeah. But like, you know, no offense. And I listen, because I don't have the answer for this either. No offense. But like, I don't know that a lot of people are going to take your warning more seriously than the warning of CSIS, than the warning of other government agencies, than the warning of, you know, national security experts.
Yeah, you're right. People are going to ignore me for sure.
Yeah, well, it's probably part of the deal. So you think about 62% of Albertans. These are just stats that are available, readily available. 62% of Albertans feel they aren't receiving fair share from the Confederation. How does aligning with a country where 49% of Americans oppose annexing Canada improve your situation? I'm having a hard time with that. Like 62% of the people in the province, you're like, hey, let's leave. Let's spend a bunch of money and let's take some of your reputational and time capital and let's pour it into the idea that Canada and Alberta need to leave and go and join the United States, when the majority of Americans and the vast majority of Canadians are like, yeah, that's not going to fucking work.
Yeah, the number again, I think things will change if the situation deteriorates, and definitely in Alberta, it will change if Ottawa imposes an export tariff or export ban embargo on Alberta oil and gas. I think those numbers will change, but those
numbers might change according to the effect it has in the industry that you're working in. Correct?
Yeah, and the industry I'm working in is $183 billion GDP out of a $338 billion GDP. So it's sizable. It's bigger than your auto sector.
Actually, no, it's not. The auto sector is closer to $930 billion according to the APMA standards. And as much as I love Alberta, dude. I grew up in Calgary. I grew up in Drumheller.
I'm just an oil guy. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I thought your biggest industry was construction at $737 billion.
No, automotive and then steel. As a matter of fact, yeah.
Well, I'll get myself self re-educated, and then
dude. I appreciate you. I appreciate you, dude. I appreciate that.
The one thing I want to get out, the number that I'm more.
Hang on. Just give me a second. Just let me finish that. If you're going to put your country on notice, country which you're a resident of, don't you want to have those numbers right when it comes to you deciding how angry, how happy, how convicted you are when it comes to giving it all up? Like, don't you want to kind of get those numbers right?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's not as important. Maybe it's not
I
as
think it's
important.
super important. No.
Let's, hey, we got internet right now. Let's take a break and get those numbers. And I'm like, oh, you know what, Dean, you were right. Not that big of a deal.
Dude, I'm happy to bring them up. I've got a screen share here. Do you want to do it in real time?
I mean, if it's that important to you, go right
Well,
ahead.
it's important to me because I'll tell you why. I like you. I think you're a good guy. I think there are a lot of people like you that are really good people whose personal experiences have dictated, the affirmation, not the information, but the affirmation process by which they make decisions on a daily basis. And I watched a video of you today with you talking about how in trouble Canada is and how you don't really give a shit about what the rest of the country thinks, and you're going to inform people about what's best for Canada, which is why I'm asking you these really pointed questions.
Which video was that? Because that doesn't really
CTV, where you basically said, hey, most of Canada wants to go to the United States. That's entirely untrue. And it's entirely untrue because
play the clip.
Well, it's on CTV. I'm going to have to go get it. Do you want me to pull it up? I can pull it up in the middle of the podcast if you like.
If it's that important, feel free to.
Well, it's important because I'm trying to have a decent conversation where you and I can kind of get together on the same note and have a conversation about what it is that you believe and whether or not it is based in. This is our country, Alberta billboard sparking Canadian patriotism. There you go. I got it right here. I'm going to have to hang on a second. This is a CTV article. I'm going to get in trouble playing the video for you, but I will play it anyway because we're recording and I can kind of figure the rest out. But let me just pause this for 1 second. We're going to keep recording just for transparency because I'm good like that. While this video shows up. Slap in the face, right? Yeah, this is it. I gotta let the commercials roll. Hang on a second. Let me bring this up. It's a great little piece. Hang on. Here we go. Hang on, buddy. Hang on. This is what I love about podcasts. So you can do this. Do. Hang on. Let's do this real time. Let's share some information together. Here we go. Let me do
farming on the side of the road, right around Bowden. A big sign meant to catch your eye. It isn't advertising exactly, but it is selling an idea.
Can you hear that?
Yeah, I can hear.
Say they aren't buying into. Alicia Fieldberg reports.
Okay.
A new billboard along the main highway between Calgary and Edmonton is attracting a lot of attention.
It's a slap in the face for anybody in Alberta.
I never slapped her in the face.
Anything else, it should be taken down and burned.
The message encourages Albertans to lobby the Premier to join the USA. Many people in the nearby town of Bowden aren't convinced.
I'm a Canadian. I'm going to stay in Canada.
I mean, people have the right to say what they want to say. But as far as him coming into Canada and trying to take Canada, I mean, that's not going to happen.
And anybody that even thought that would give him permission to do that are pretty darn stupid.
Town Hall has been taking a lot of heat from people across the country, even though the community of 1,200 people has nothing to do with it.
People are entitled to their opinion, but you got to look at the facts. I have my personal opinions. I watched that hockey game last night, cheering for Canada.
The province isn't behind it either. Danielle Smith's office releasing a statement touting Canada's sovereignty and the importance of a strong trade relationship with our friends and allies in the United States. The business that paid for the ad used to run Wexit, an organization which took a page from Brexit and hoped to apply it to Western Canada. But now it has shifted its goal.
Well, if Ottawa wants to say that oil and gas tariffs, export tariffs and export bans are on the table, well then we're saying becoming the 51st state is on the table.
This sign has prompted the addition of a second sign, a small yellow one on the private property below it, which says, "This sign is not ours and we have no control over the contents." The owner of this property says he has had many threatening phone calls and emails and has contacted RCMP and his insurance company. He says the business that owns the billboard has been threatened as well. CTV contacted Spot Ads about its policies but did not receive a response. American Fund says the ad they paid for will be up for about a month.
This is Canada. This is our country.
Canada's great.
There you go. So
Yeah, so that was just the line that I said about if the export bans are on the table, then being the 51st states on the table.
yeah, for roughly, according to my math, like 8% of the country. So you're gonna, put a thumb in the eye of every single one of your countrymen because Canada might retaliate with reciprocal tariffs. Is that?
Yes, I am going to protect my job and my family and all that. Yes, if it comes to push comes to shove, that's what I think. And it's not just me, but that's what people will do. That's going to be human nature, and it is what it is.
Well, it is just you that I'm talking to right now. I'm not talking about we say it's human nature, but it's like a fraction of the percent of Canadians, and the majority of Canadians are willing to make that sacrifice. But what you're saying is you're not.
It's not going to be me who's going to show up at Donald Trump's house and saying, hey, Pete's here and I accept your offer. No, I'm telling you that's going to happen to Alberta. Alberta is going to separate. Alberta is going to accept President Trump's offer. That's what's going to happen. That's what I think is going to happen. I'm not saying that.
Have you had conversations with Danielle Smith or anybody in the UCP who wants that to happen as well?
No, that was part of the goal, was to fix her.
That's just those are just your thoughts?
No, I'm telling you, part of this.
I know you're telling me, but what are the metrics for you telling me?
Well, based on the statement that she just put out there saying that, no, Canada is going to be sovereign and we want to have good trade relationships with the U.S. She's fixed herself in the position. Everybody now knows publicly what her position is in relation to this question.
Yeah, but I'm asking about your intention. Like, you want Canada to become part of the United States to protect your job.
If push comes to shove and it keeps going this way where I see it going, then yes, that would be the option I would choose rather than going down. For me to go down with the ship while the politicians get in the lifeboat. I'd choose to join the States.
See, this is all I was trying to ask you. I'm really glad you finally admitted. See, and a lot of people come at it that way, right? Like you come at any kind of advocacy according to your own self-interest, right? And it's not out of the realm of possibility that, a lot of people that feel like, we should give Trump whatever he wants because, their ability to sustain a living is directly tied to whatever threats that man is saying. Do you believe Donald Trump? Do you think he's a truthful guy?
I believe that he's truthful about wanting Arctic security and Alberta being a piece of that. Yeah, I do.
No, but do you believe him in any capacity when it comes to Canada not being a normal country, a viable country? Do you believe that when he tells you, do you believe him when he says Canada would be a better country if it were the 51st state?
I think that if it can't sustain itself under the tariff imposition, then yeah, I think that if it's not viable, on its own, then it needs to be.
So you believe him that we're not viable on our own?
Well, I guess we'll see.
Yeah, but you're making big decisions according to the fact that you believe Canada isn't viable on its own.
Well, I'm not an elected official. I'm representing a political position and a public opinion of other people. That's all I'm doing. I'm just a dude.
Oh, you're not representing your own political opinion, just other people's opinion?
I share that opinion, but I wouldn't be out there. I wouldn't be out there doing it just for my like.
So what's the opinion that you share with those people?
Well, it's everything on the website. It's that this is going to be, again, I feel like I'm repeating myself, is that this is where it's going to go. Albertans are going to vote in favor in a referendum somehow that they'll take President Trump's offer. If there's oil and gas embargoes and we're destitute, like Stephen Harper says, that we should accept any level of damage and be willing to be impoverished. I think that Albertans will accept President Trump's offer.
Okay. So far that number stands at 12% in Alberta of the people that want to join the United States. On your website, you said, and I'm just going by your website. I'm looking at it right now. It is America Fund Canadians for the 51st state, calm within the storm, expanding freedom. What freedoms do you think that you would be granted under being the 51st state that you don't currently have?
First Amendment, Second Amendment, 60% tax cut, and not having to pay equalization.
Okay,
Being
so
able to create our own state constitution, to have, again, it's upside down in Canada, where Section 91, 92 of the Constitution talks about the federal powers versus the provincial powers, and that anything not explicitly given to the provinces is retained by the feds. The USA is the other way around with the 10th Amendment. It's saying anything not expressly given to the feds is retained with the states. Having free market access, no internal trade barriers for Alberta.
totally agree. Totally agree.
So, I mean, yeah, that's what.
So do you feel like you said freedom of speech? Do you feel like you don't have the freedom of speech in Canada, even though you've got this website that is AmericaFund.ca?
Well, it's like I said, I can't say the word fart and be allowed to run and I have no way. I literally am not interested in the legislative side of government. But there's a point to this, is that I can't say the word fart and be able to have my nomination endorsed by Pierre Polivier or Danielle Smith. But you can look at all the shady backroom dealing and all that stuff going on right now in Alberta, especially with that AHS scandal. I would fit in. I'm not saying there's no corruption in the States. There's a lot of corruption. I would fit in as a person with my beliefs, values, outlook, temperament, personality. I would just be a middle of the road MAGA Republican. That's who I would be. And it's not Donald Trump. I happen to like Donald Trump. Let's put that out there. I like Donald Trump. I've been watching Donald Trump since he was on the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air in the 1980s, 1988, I think, was what he got to visit the Banks' house with his wife, his second wife there.
Yeah, Marla
Yeah,
Maples, smoke show.
Yeah, I like Donald.
So what do you like about Donald Trump?
You're laughing, successful.
No, I'm
dude.
laughing because you're like, I've liked him since the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and I'm like, I haven't heard anybody ever.
I could like him. I can like him for building what he's built. I can like him for The Apprentice, You're Fired. I can like him for whatever I like him for. We talk about flavors of chips, salt and vinegar, dill pickle.
Big dill pickle guy. We went over that because I had a little bowl of chips before we started. We were talking, but what do you like substantively? What do you like about Donald Trump as a politician? Like, can you name me some successful things?
I think the idea of economic nationalism, the idea of regular, like, again, I work in oil and gas, taking my industry and moving it from 4.6 million barrels a day export to 10, doubling it. I was talking with a hedge fund manager in Texas, Texas hedge fund manager a few weeks back, and Alberta plus Texas beats OPEC. And, so for me, that's very attractive. I'd like to see more industrial. I'd like to see Ontario's industrial manufacturing grow again. I'd like to see fisheries come back to Newfoundland. I'd like to see people take the natural resources, mining, the things that you work with your hands and a regular person, and that you can be that guy who pays for an entire family on one salary. I like that. I like those policies. Economic nationalism is the biggest one that I like. President Trump. There's others, but that's the biggest one.
That's it. Economic nationalism.
Economic nationalism is the biggest thing for me.
Anything to do with evangelical? His evangelical bent.
I don't think he's a big evangelical guy. His daughter married
well, he pretends to be. Yeah,
Judaism and all that kind of stuff.
I think the Jews. Do you like the Jews?
Oh, the Jews. No, I'm just saying that I don't. I think it's just like I just don't think he plays to that base for sure. He doesn't alienate them, all that kind of stuff. I don't see him as a big evangelical guy. That's not why I like him. I like him for the economic nationalism.
Okay, so Now, this might come as a surprise, but that's also called economic isolationism, right? Like he's isolated himself over the past couple of months. Now, interesting, because I'm a big fan of sustainable anything when it comes to our country. Like I think we should have put pipelines across the country years ago, like you. I
Yeah.
think we should build oil refineries out the yin yang. I thought we should have done that years ago, like you. I think we should be empowering the oil patch, not telling the oil patch, you need more windmills. We need both. And I really believe there's a space in this country for both. I really, really do. But what I find interesting, and I always found this interesting with people that had this bent of, specifically coming from the oil patch, is like, I love oil and gas. Well, do you, or do you love the fucking paycheck you get from oil and gas?
Oh, it's the paycheck. Absolutely. 100%
Right.
every single day of the year.
Right.
I
And
love
so
I love smelling. Now, by the way, I have.
you love the smell of bitumen, do you?
Oh man, AFA. I was thinking about making like vapes, AFA vapes, and you can huff like chemicals.
That's when you know you love oil and gas.
I
where you're
think
like,
it would sell. I think it would sell. Oh,
how
man.
about Zamboni flavored vapes? Like when you walk into a rink with your kids and you smell the Zamboni fumes, it's like, I feel like I'm home because I'm a vape guy.
Exactly.
Yeah, I get it. Anyway, I find that fascinating because, this conversation to me, like we've been at it for an hour, just kind of hamming it up, talking about where you're from, why you decided to come up with an AmericaFund.ca website, why you want to tell Canadians that we should be part of the United States. And what I find interesting about you is that your convictions come from your personal experiences, your ability to feed your family. But that's also the same conviction that so many of us have as Canadians, where it's like, okay, I'm going to boycott anything American because my friend Peter Downing is Canadian and his job depends on it. I'm going to advocate for the Canadian energy industry to diversify across this country because my friend Peter Downing has a family with several children and a wife who needs to be provided for. And I don't care what your ideological bent is, I really want you to do well. And so what I do is I sacrifice on my end because I want Peter to do well. I want people like you.
Okay.
What's that? Go ahead.
If
Yes.
I thought that plan, the feds, tariff wars, all that kind of everything that you just said, because let's talk. I was in the army, so talk about I never deployed. Thankfully, I still have my body, and I'm not completely messed up in the head.
You didn't deploy?
No. Just I was in the.
How long were you in the army for?
A couple of years, just with the reserves. I got all the training, and then.
Why'd you leave?
I don't want to get into all. I don't. I don't like coming across as moralistic. It's funny for a guy who went to is Christian and all that kind of stuff. It just wasn't what I expected. That's the easiest way to say it. I missed law enforcement. I thought it was going to be sort of like that in the reserves. I wanted to have a family life and be close to my family and not be transferred all over the place. And no, reserve life just wasn't what I expected it to be. I don't want to get into why I was bored or what didn't say. I'm not trying to shit on the army here. But it just wasn't for me. I appreciated the training. It was really great. But I got out. That's really all it is to that.
Okay, I'm doing a Peter Downing Wikipedia right now. Alberta separatist, former leader of the Wexit Canada, known as the Maverick Party. You're involved in the Maverick Party?
Well, I created Wexit, and then I got out of that.
You started Wexit?
Yeah, I'm the guy who started Wexit.
Oh my God, I can't believe I'm talking to the guy that started Wexit. That's hilarious. It's awesome. Downing founded Wexit Canada aftermath of Justin Trudeau's re-election. Downing is also a former member of the Canadian Armed Forces. I think that's my phone. Sorry about that. Hang on 1 second. Just give me 1 second. That's my beautiful girlfriend. She just called me. Canadian Armed Forces, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, serving 2006, 2016, 2015. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Received conditional discharge for, okay. Uttering threats against his ex-wife in 2009. You want to get into that or no?
Hey, it's just like I said in that interview, and it caused a fight with me and my ex back in the day. Is sometimes women say things, and sometimes judges believe them. And Amber Heard, Johnny Depp, you know how it goes.
Kind of, not really, but you want to get into it, or
I'm not getting it. Not re-digging up old
would we?
Old corpses.
Yeah.
Not today.
Yeah. Okay. So Army for a couple of years, law enforcement for a couple of years. I know you wanted to expound on whether or not, you had this conception of what has formed your opinion over the last several years to bring you to the point where you're at, of why you don't like this country. But does that not feed into your perspective or no?
I didn't say I didn't like this country. I don't have a problem with the people. I don't have a problem with the geography. I don't have a problem with the culture or anything like that stuff. I have a big problem with the political system, and I have a big problem with the decisions that are made, and on all sides of the aisle, let me say conservative and liberal, I'm equally dissatisfied with them. And I see us heading for a cliff with this Terra 4. And I'd like to alert people to the impending crash that's going to happen. I think it's going to end up with Alberta separating unless we start addressing other possibilities that really the political leadership in this country have no ability to get us to. That's me. That's me as a person.
Okay, that's you as a person. But why are you buying billboards to convince other people that they should believe you?
Because people who hold those beliefs, which I share those beliefs, pay money, and I put together projects.
Oh, so you get paid to do it.
Well, there's cost to do this stuff. I haven't taken a single cent.
You haven't been paid $1 to do this job?
Not $1, nor have I spent $1 of my own money.
That's the ticket, right? Or you can get other people to pay for your resentment. I like it. Smart.
I guess so.
I would do the exact same thing if I was in your position. I'd be like, okay, who wants to pay for my resentment? And I would go and find those people, and I would make them pay for it. That's how it works. I mean, it's kind of brilliant that way. But I also wonder, like, how are you feeling today about your chances of Canada, or Alberta leaving the United States? Like, what kind of support are you getting, and where are you getting that support for this AmericaFund.ca?
Yeah, well, people ponied up some money at the beginning, put together a little bit of a budget. They're Albertans in Alberta, work regular jobs, regular business people. And then since then, with the billboards, donations have been coming in ever since. And it goes back to more billboards and more messaging and all that kind of stuff, both in Canada and the United States. And then we get a lot of hate, and we get a lot of hit pieces and stuff like that. And then that begets more hate and hit pieces. But that also begets more sympathy. And it also begets more people who say, hey, you know what? These guys actually reflect what I believe, which begets more donations, which begets more billboards and messaging, and ad infinitum.
I like that. Ad nauseum. It just keeps going, right? Because there are lots of people that believe what you believe. And listen, it's interesting because I don't discount it, right? Like, I disagree with it on a nationalist perspective and on a patriotic perspective and on a common sense or critical thought perspective. But I don't disagree that there are a lot of people in Alberta and Saskatchewan, a little bit in Manitoba, kind of lower mainland of British Columbia, who have an extreme resentment for Canada, who would rather be part of the United States. Hey, listen, I have friends that I talk to who are high net worth people who go, kind of makes sense, right? Like, I kind of, but it makes sense for them and the preservation of their wealth, preservation of their life, and preservation of their core beliefs, right? So last couple questions I want to ask you, and you've been super generous with your time, and I greatly appreciate it, Peter. Peter Downing is our guest, started Wexit, which I just found out in the show, part of the AmericaFund.ca, which is creating waves with billboards around Alberta, et cetera, telling Danielle Smith and other people it's time to leave Canada and join the United States and become the 51st state. Hope I'm not misrepresenting that, but that's, something we've been chopping up.
Close enough. We'll go with it.
Okay. Thanks. Appreciate it, buddy. But the things that I need to kind of understand, like to end the conversation is, if you're not proud to be here, why don't you leave? Like, why don't you go to the United States? And I'm not saying,
Yeah, no, I
fuck
get
you,
it.
leave. I'm saying, hey, if you don't like it that much, what makes you spend all that time and money on a billboard instead of saying, you know what? I'm going to go to the United States, work down in Texas. I'm going to watch an episode of Landman with Billy Bob Thornton.
Hey,
I'm going to head down there and make
I've
my money.
watched all those episodes. You know
So
what?
good. Good.
It's that's crack TV.
I love it so
Yeah.
much.
Well, we work in a bigger temperature swing here. So we go from -40 to +40, which in American terms, I think that's 144 degree swing. So -40 Fahrenheit to +104. So we're better than Texas when it comes to that.
Sure, yeah.
Yes.
You're Canadian at heart. Even though you don't want to be, you're Canadian. Of course you're better than that.
I could be a star-spangled Canadian. I mean, I don't hate Canada.
Yeah, you hate it. You hate it pretty good. I mean,
I hate the political system.
We all do. Here's the thing, dude. All of us do. You got to have a special hate on for the country to go and fundraise to put up a billboard that's like, let's get the fuck out of here and join the United States.
I don't know.
Every single Canadian is super exhausted.
It must be vaccine-induced autism for me because I don't have that much of an emotional reaction to that.
Are you vaccinated?
What's that?
Are you vaccinated?
When I was a kid, like
did you get a COVID vaccine?
Nope.
No,
not one.
Why would you? Do you go to church? Are you a church guy?
Yeah. We actually started our church during the lockdowns.
Oh, did you? Are you evangelical? Like you're born again?
Yeah, apostolic. We're one God apostolics. We believe that Jesus is the Spirit of truth. He's the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. It's not necessarily the most classical Trinitarian version of the expression of faith, but God is Spirit, truth, love, all that, and the God of the one who spoke to Moses in the burning bush and through the prophets is the same Spirit that manifests Himself in bodily form, born of the Virgin, taught us face to face, and lived a sinless, perfect life, died, ascended into heaven, poured out His Spirit on all those who repent of their sins, be baptized in His name.
Oh, you believe Jesus rose from the dead?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. You believe that? Do you believe in the rapture?
Yeah, I do believe that there will be a rapture at some point. I don't know if it'll be in my lifetime. I don't get it all super hyped up like the lost. It's funny, the lost. What was it? Left Behind. That was a little bit before my time.
Yeah.
I've seen the Jack Chick tracks. Those are a little bit out there. But I as a doctrine, I believe that that's going to happen when Jesus returns for sure.
So, in my lifetime, there have been 7 raptures.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. I'm 52. How old are you?
43.
43. Okay, I'm a little older than you. Like, so I remember like we were part of the evangelical church. So I'm part of and have grown up in your faith. And in 1988, I believe 88, I watched families sell everything and lay on their beds and go to bed and wake up the next morning. Yeah. And I've seen that 7 times. So we've had 2 more in the last year where the evangelical church and some of the faith leaders, thought leaders in the faith were like, it's coming. We're all going up. And for anybody listening, understand what the rapture is. It's when Jesus brings all the people up that are Christians, just born again Christians, all the people up to earth, leaves everybody else on earth to kind of duke it out with the devil. But they also take up all the cadavers that are in like cemeteries, and they all, get new bodies and they all go up to heaven. Right. Do you believe that?
Yeah. In broadly, as you've described it, it's funny though. So yes, to answer your question plainly, and
God bless you for admitting it, by the way.
But it's the opposite. But it's the opposite when it comes to our group, is that people in our church leadership is a lot like you. They've seen the people who've given up all their money and all that kind of stuff. And it almost becomes like a taboo thing. It's like, oh yeah, we think about it, but we don't talk about it because of all that other crazy stuff and abuse that's happened. So.
Yeah. No, but hey, listen, it takes, the word faith comes in handy when you're believing that stuff, right? Like faith is described in the dictionary, and I'll get to this in just a second, described in the dictionary as the belief in religious rhetoric without proof due to anxiety. That's effectively what it means. Is like a lot of people are stressed out about, the afterlife. And so they're like, I'm going to throw all my faith into this because it sounds like a great story, but there's no physical proof of any of it
What I
actually.
love
What's
about
up?
this, the controversy that comes out of politics, is some of the best conversations about spirituality and faith comes through the interactions and the
Right.
people you meet and that kind of stuff, and you get to talk at this level. And that's probably, it's like oil and gas.
I bet you
The
didn't
wo-
think you'd have this conversation
the
with me
work
today, huh?
sucks. The work sucks in oil and gas, but it's the reward that's the benefit. And the work
Sure.
sucks in politics because of all the friction and conflict. But
Yeah.
if this is a reward, having these conversations, then for me, it's worth it.
Ah, buddy, absolutely. We sharpen each other's swords, right? Like that's how we do this. We have a conversation about it, and then we talk about faith. We talk about experience. We talk about examples. We talk about, receipts, right? We talk about, the word faith in itself. I find fascinating because you have to have faith to believe in something you haven't seen, and to base your entire life on it, and the decisions that you make on a daily basis really makes sense to me now because your faith is very much aligned with Make America Great Again
I'll
and
tell you.
the
I'll tell you a
evangelical
quick
movement behind that,
story.
right?
This quick story about how I came to faith is when I was seeking crisis and stuff in life, and so I made friends with a pastor at a Salvation Army. He gave me a Bible, and I was a cop at the time, so I remember reading this and said, I'm going to treat it just like witness testimonies. I don't. Somebody says that this guy did something to me. I don't believe it. I'll take the report and then I'll corroborate it. So it was with that spirit that I read the Bible, because I'm not singing and dancing and clapping to a bunch of hocus pocus. It's got to be real or it's not. So I read the Bible. I grew up in Catholic school and in Catholic church, and they talked about God and Jesus and all that. But all these prophecies I'm seeing all throughout the Old Testament, the books are written hundreds and thousands of years before Jesus walked the earth. And you've got historical stuff from the Jews and the Romans and the Greeks who didn't believe in Jesus, but they wrote about Jesus, said he was crucified, and his believers said that he rose from the dead. So you've got this historical backdrop to it. But all these prophecies about Jesus in the Old Testament, I looked at this, born a virgin, crucified, his hands and feet pierced, born in Bethlehem, all this stuff. It's just like to the T. I said, you got to be drunk or smoking crack to say that these prophecies aren't talking about Jesus here. And if these books are written hundreds and thousands of years before he walked the earth can predict this, then this whole thing is true. Took me a little bit of a time to get my whole life in line with my faith, not drinking and womanizing and all that kind of stuff. So that part took a little bit of time, and a little bit of fear of God helped. But that's sort of my testimony about how I came to it.
Yeah, dude. Hey, listen, religion, core beliefs, people arrive at those things through a variety of vehicles, right? Whether it's damnation, whether it's, being at the end of your rope, whether it's being broke, whether it's being sad, whatever the deal is, right? And then you reach out, you find this operating system, and then you adopt it and you do it. Like my operating system is Stoic philosophy and Epicurean philosophy, but generally speaking, I'm a humanist, right? And I came from the evangelical church. So I'm what you would call an apostate, where I can recite to you every book from the Old Testament, every book from the New Testament, and I can literally sit here and have a conversation with you that my brother, who is a reverend, never wants to have a conversation with me about. Like ever. As you can probably tell by my confidence in this conversation, where I can literally have a conversation with you that's respectful and say, okay, I'm gonna ask you a couple questions about what your core belief system are, because I believe two things to be true after this conversation. I believe your core beliefs feed into your political beliefs. I believe that's the case for a lot of people, specifically in the United States. If you're evangelical, you're Republican. Bottom line, it's kind of the deal. If you're evangelical in Canada, you're probably conservative, maybe PPC, right? Somewhat liberal. I don't know, because they believe in abortion. Evangelicals do not. They don't believe in conversion therapy. Evangelicals don't believe gay people are real people. Like, dude, I've been down that road. I've seen it all. I can attest to the principles of evangelical faith. I can also attest to the principle of being conservative, because I was one. I've never voted anything but conservative. So when I have these conversations with people like you, it's not because I've got a gotcha moment. It's because I want to challenge people like you, and I want to listen to people like you, and I want to find out whether or not you're wired like me, and you are, where your core beliefs feed into your political beliefs, and they feed into your activism. They feed into your advocacy, and you advocate according to your core belief system. And your core belief system is built on an evangelical faith that comes to you from a very honest, maybe life-changing perspective. And that's okay. That's totally cool. But for a lot of people, they don't understand that. They go, well, that guy's an idiot, or this guy's this, or people look at me and they go, you're a libtard, secular. You know, I got called the spear of Satan's dick the other day, and I'm like, oh, that's nice. That's really really cute, because I believe abortion should be allowed and promoted for a lot of different people. You clearly do not. And for people like us to be able to sit down and have this conversation and kind of get to the bottom of what it is that fires you up and what it is that makes you convicted as a human being, that's all I'm here for, right? I'm only here for that. I'm only here for that conversation. I'm not here to convince you otherwise. I'm not here to tell you that you're wrong. You'll bear that out on your own. What I'm here to do is have a literal conversation with someone who's got a completely opposite opinion of mine, and to understand it. And so, you know, for that, I give you, above any convoy guy, above any conservative, above any religion, above any evangelical that I have chastised and laughed at and mocked and, you know, tried to talk to for the past several years, full credit. Because not only did you show up, you represented yourself. You said, hey, this is what I believe. Whether or not those receipts were quality, according to anybody listening, whether or not you stood there and were like, yeah, this is who I am. This is what I believe. And I think that's heroic in some capacities, because listen, faith is largely based on the unproven, untrue, and it's something that has zero evidence. Like, that's the word faith. I'm going to take it on faith. I'm going to take it on my understanding that this is what I hope to be real, without any proof at all. And I find that, in essence, to be the biggest turn on for me in these conversations, because I want to know it. I want to understand it. How are you able to go out on a limb and do this in your life, to swim against the stream, to know that 84% of Canadians want nothing to do with being part of America? Something like 80% of Albertans are like, fuck Trump, fuck the United States. And you're like, I'm going to take out a billboard. Like, I want to know where that conviction comes from.
Yeah, you just kind of hit it there. That was sort of my thought process.
Yeah, dude, and take it for what it's worth. There are people out there that don't stand for anything, that just kind of swim, right? You will stand up and swim against the stream, and as much as I absolutely think it's hilarious in some capacities, specifically watching that billboard and, you know, seeing how people are reacting and watching people walk away from it, you've got the courage of your convictions, no matter how crazy I'm
thinking about putting a billboard. We're thinking about a bill, but we got folks reaching out to us from Ontario, where obviously it's a much smaller percentage of support for this, but they're looking for a billboard. And, you know, just batting around my head, don't be smug, Doug. Give the U.S. a hug. I don't know. Don't be smug, Doug. Dude, he's giving the U.S. a hug every chance he gets. That guy is such a piece of shit. That guy is such a liar. Like, at least Danielle Smith goes down there and she's like, yeah, I want to be friends with these guys. He's like, I hate the United States, on Canadian TV. And then he turns around and he goes, hey guys, what do you got? What do you got for me? What do you got? What do you got for Doug? Hey, something in here, right? Hey, that Globe and Mail article about him.
Yeah. Anyway, Peter Downing, AmericaFund.ca. I would encourage everybody to go and read about your tenants. I find them to be funny, but you find them to be serious. I would encourage everybody to, you know, look into who this gentleman is and the courage of his convictions. And you know what? Whether or not I agree with you or not, I would encourage everybody to stand on the courage of their convictions, regardless of whatever receipts they have that they come with, because I would rather talk to a guy like Peter Downing than someone who's like, I don't know. I don't care. Anyway, appreciate you doing this, dude. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Dean. It was a real pleasure. And just in, like I said, from where I grew up listening to you, just an absolute thrill to talk to you.
Oh, buddy, mine as well. Hey, listen, if we can't have a conversation with people we vehemently disagree with and bat it around and kind of get a little bit better at life, then we're all fucked, aren't we?
Yeah. Well, if my family doesn't disown me and I'm allowed to go visit Ontario in the future, wings are on me, bud.
I'll have wings with you anytime, Peter. You stay well, take care of your family, and I'll talk to you soon.
God bless you, pal. Take care.
All right, pal. Take care. There's Peter Downing from the AmericaFund.ca. He is also the creator of Wexit. Listen, I mean everything I say. There's a lot of people that'll vilify that guy, rightly or wrongly. But at least he stands there and tells you what he thinks, right? You know how many people fucking hide from that shit? Everybody. Not Peter. Puts it on Front Street. He's like, yeah, fuck it. Let's go to the United States. Oh, God, I love this planet. I love my country. I love people in it of all walks of life. Let's agree to disagree, have some laughs, decent conversation, and move on. Podcast is brought to you by my friends at Field Trip Health. Open up your mind, open up your hearts to alternative treatment. Ketamine-assisted therapy has been helping people now for generations. Listen, it's one of the best kept secrets is how do you get better? You deal with your trauma by doing psychedelics and then doing therapy because it takes you out of that negative mindset, that whole repeat of the things that you think you are, the things that you think you've become, you haven't become those things. Your mind and your brain has the ability to heal itself, and it does it through therapy and psychedelics. I've experienced it. You can experience it too, whether it's psilocybin, MDMA, or their world-changing ketamine-assisted psychotherapy. Fieldtriphealth.ca, fieldtriphealth.ca. Go and check them out today. They've got at-home therapy. It's across the country of Canada. They will help you. They've helped me. They've helped dozens of my friends. And I can tell you this, it is the most incredible treatment for anybody with treatment-resistant depression, PTSD, anxiety. Highly encourage you to go and visit my friends Ian, Dr. Mario, ask them questions. Your booking appointment is totally free. They want to help you and tailor make your service, tailor make your treatment so that you get better faster and stay better longer and you don't have to go on a whole bunch of pills. That is why it exists. That is why I love my friends at Field Trip Health. Go to fieldtriphealth.ca for more information. Go to YouTube if you'd like to watch this podcast. YouTube, Crier Media, YouTube, Dean Blundell Show. You can go to Spotify. You can also go to Apple Podcasts. You can hear this online. Please rate and subscribe. Really appreciate Peter being here. Appreciate you taking time with us. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you soon. Bye.